This is the Soft Power Podcast, episode 30. Hello, Soft Power Society. I'm so glad you're here. And that's not an exaggeration. I'm truly glad you're here because I'm having a great weekend. I hope you feel the same way. I'm having a great week because I help people live better, more engaged, and prosperous lives. And I do that through the use of people skills. I work with a wide range of people, from executives who've gotten feedback that they're being a little too abrasive, to managers who want to develop executive presence, and entrepreneurs and business owners who want to compete with big organizations. And also students and professionals who wonder what they could have or should have done to be offered the job they wanted so much that would have changed their life forever if only they'd connected better with the interviewers. The commonality with a lot of them, not all, but a lot, is that they're on the quiet side. And by quiet, I mean reserved, sometimes shy, and often introverted. Sometimes they overthink everything to death, like a should I or should I not loop, constantly going through their heads and not taking enough action. Then, in an opposing category, there are those who aren't at all introverted or quiet, but they're overly self-conscious or insecure. I guess the bottom line is we all have something or some thought process that in some way can be self-defeating. And to have to deal with that mind drama can also hold you back from showing up and engaging in the way you visualize to be optimal and doing what people expect from you. For example, something as simple as speaking up rather than shutting down in meetings. And before I receive any emails, I'll backtrack and say emphatically that I know speaking up in meetings is definitely not simple for a lot of people. In fact, it can be a major source of stress for otherwise accomplished professionals. And I help all of them move out of that headspace where they currently are and realize just how truly beautiful and fun life and work can be when you manage your thoughts. Actually, when you master your thoughts, because your thoughts create your results. In fact, I believe that so strongly that you can't even argue with me. Well, I suppose you could try, but just doing coaching work on thoughts and feelings will change your life for the better. And you have evidence of that all around you. It's true. What you have or don't have in your professional or personal life, from the job you have to the friends you love to the amount of money you make, is based on the thoughts you have about what you are worthy of achieving and the extent to which your thoughts are either expansive or limited. So regardless of where you are on the normal, outgoing, or introvert, insecure scale, have to get it together with your relationship or people skills and the thoughts that you have surrounding them. That's because we expect adults to act like normal human beings. You're welcome to harbor all the neuroses you want, but your boss and your coworkers, or even your employees, whoever's in your orbit, they don't want to have to deal with weird personalities that aren't in check. So I'm going to help you with a few pointers to look and act normal and be thoughtful and totally chill. Be a person who's worthy of reciprocated kindness and respect. It's as simple as that. That shouldn't be a tall order, but I get it that it may be difficult to see yourself that way, especially when you always think of yourself in terms of whatever label you've been assigned. And know that I'm not an exception to using labels as an excuse to show up in a certain way. Like when I was still a super shy adult, do you think anyone wanted to hear that story as a reason why I didn't show up at an event after RSVPing? Of course not. And that's why I'm supercharged today, because my clients are supercharged with their results, because I relate to their angst. On today's episode, I'm going to share some pointers on how to combine your thoughts and beliefs. Let me explain that your thoughts are just things you made up in your head, and beliefs are thoughts that you've convinced yourself of. So we're going to think about those in terms of good people skills and how you can get everything you want from the relationships you have with other people. If you want to put an abundance of thought into anything outside of your hard skills or your talents, your work skills, make it your people skills because you need to access them every day, whether you're working from home or alongside your colleagues. It's your people skills that give you the presence of mind to make the most of every interaction. Just remember again that it's your thoughts that create your results, and that includes in your relationships with other people. So, if you know you want to be seen as a competent, charismatic, and reliable person, you have to think that way long before you start an interaction. It's your people skills that help you create professional friendships, or at the very least, show that you're capable of being a person who's welcome. And that's, of course, a primary indicator of career trajectory because we do things and we look out for people we like. All of the tips I'm going to share with you are definitely not heavy lifting in any way, and they should be relatively easy to implement if you want them to be. Let's start by being grateful or thankful for everything you have. That's because when you train your brain to see the positive aspects of anything first, that positivity will dominate your persona. And when you start every day on a high note, when something comes about in the course of your day that alters your mood, maybe let's say your positivity or optimism drops from a level 10 to a level 8 just because of something that happened in the course of the day. But if you started your day at a level 3 or 4, well, you get where I'm going. Your mind and attitude will end up in the gutter before you even get going. So start each day on the highest note possible before your feet hit the floor. Once again, that goes back to the thoughts on your mind when you wake up. Does anything come to mind when you think of something surprising or shocking that may affect your mood in a business or work setting? I'm asking because it's worth taking stock of your emotions because the office or even a Zoom call isn't the place to show that you're not fully in control of your reflexes and your emotional state. A good way to describe this would be to think of how you react when a waiter drops a tray full of dishes or glassware in a restaurant. You've heard that sound probably more times you can count in your lifetime, and even though your back is turned to the noise and you instantly know from experience what happened, but you still jump and turn quickly to check out whatever the scene is, we all want to be in the presence of emotionally stable people. So it's worth mentioning you always want to present yourself in a calm and self controlled way and be mindful that anger and being overly jumpy still speaks for you even if you don't say a word. I am so surprised at the number of people who use quietness as an excuse to not give kudos to a colleague where kudos are due. Because one of the best ways to build relationships is to acknowledge the accomplishments and contributions of other people. Giving credit where credit is due is a muscle that you always want to build. You want compliments and kind things to just flow from your mouth. First, because it reflects well on you, and second, because everything we practice eventually comes naturally to us, and being naturally complimentary is just a super nice way to be. Let's also include empathy in this category as well, because it never hurts to take a well rounded view of things by putting yourself in other people's shoes, right? Empathy helps you understand different paradigms that are bound to occur in multi generational and multicultural workplaces. Plus, who's more likely to have your back? Someone you've taken a moment to better understand, or that person you see every day, but you never stop and just take a moment to get to know them a bit better, just to let them know that you see them, that you acknowledge. There's a great proverb about digging your well before you're thirsty. I've enjoyed that for years. Basically, the proverb is dig your well before you're thirsty. There is a well known businessman and author, Harvey McKay, that made the term more popular. And it's pretty straightforward in getting across the point that you have to do the work before you can reap any of the benefits, or strike water in your well before you're parched and maybe even dying of thirst. It doesn't matter if you're an insecure extrovert or a quiet introvert, because anyone can ignore the importance of creating relationships before you need them. Especially when you're self involved and so concerned about yourself, you forget to look out for other people's needs and feelings. You can't expect what you want or need to come to you with no effort. How does that happen? It just doesn't work that way. You have to get things going and figure out issues or problems the other person has and help them solve them. So look for ways to be helpful, and you'll never be thirsty because people will always be there for you. Actually, don't even delay. Just start digging your well today. And don't look for necessarily the person that you did a kindness for to be the one that reciprocates. Life doesn't work that way. It may come back from another person, but still it will come to you eventually. I promise you. I'm going to guess that roughly 65% or more of the clients I've helped over the years don't like to engage in small talk, and they don't want to get to know their colleagues. And that just doesn't make sense. You work with your colleagues all day, so it's logical that you'll learn something about their lives. Small talk is a deal breaker. When I meet a new person, an adult that hasn't taken the time to think of something of interest to chat about, they lack interest and depth and maturity. I know that you often think you don't have the interest or the time, but it's not hard to make a point of getting to know what's important to your coworkers. And because you see them frequently, you can get a lot of mileage out of one conversation where they happen to tell you about their family or where they went to school or maybe their dog or any pet or a hobby, and using that information they shared as a basis for subsequent conversations. Just by mentioning that dog or that hobby, that will solidify a bond. How would you feel about a person that you mentioned something that's important that you enjoy, and months later they brought it into conversation? You would feel that connection. A lot of adults want to make new friends, and they don't realize that to have a friend, the first thing you have to do is be a friend. It's not complicated. Like I said, it's not heavy lifting that I'm giving you here. Let's say, this is important, let's say you don't care for that person. What then? Well, everyone has at least one good trait, right? And I get it that you may despise the idea of being kind to someone who's not kind to you, but imagine everyone knows this person is a jerk. Pardon me. Let's just say they're a jerk. And they see you moving past that person's flaws in order to complete important tasks for the good of the organization. That'll bode well for you because you just can't allow personal differences to get in the way of your professional performance. That raises you, it raises your social capital. Practicing active listening, especially if you're working on perfecting your small talk game, but you're not quite there yet, is another great way to improve your people skills. Active listening is simply maintaining eye contact and nodding or leaning your head to one side and repeating, more importantly, repeating what was said or paraphrasing what was said in your own words. All of these, and especially the paraphrasing in particular, help people to feel seen and heard and respected. And it also increases the chances you'll recall the conversation at a later time. And why is this important? Because down the road, when you mention something from that conversation, the other party will appreciate you a lot for remembering. Finally, for today, do you have a tendency to stay in touch with former colleagues or classmates? Taking a few minutes each week or month to reconnect goes a long way. This is related to the concept of digging your well. Just try to set up a face-to-face meeting, and if that fails, online is perfectly fine. This shows those chosen people you value the relationships, and that can go a long way in helping you get over yourself and work towards removing any of those labels that are holding you back. If any type of skill is something you know how to do and you're good at, then people skills are essentially about being good with people. Let's not take that for granted. Just pick one tip I shared with you to focus on today, or set a schedule if you feel that you're deficient in many of them. Like I always say, you can do hard things. I have faith in you. Soft Power Society, do you struggle with small talk? I created Small Talk Superstar, a private Facebook group just for you, with tips, strategies, video lessons, and a place to express your thoughts and get high-level feedback for free. There's a link to join in the show notes. Thanks for joining me today. Bye for now.